This is Jeffrey Crivero, and with me is Mr. Jesse Cutler. We are conducting an interview in Trevor Colbourn Hall at the University of Central Florida in Orlando on Thursday, February 8th, 2024. Mr. Cutler, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Would you please begin by stating your name and telling us a little bit about where you're from and what life was like for you growing up?
Well, my name is Jesse Cutler. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, a long time ago, 1951. And as a child, I had an older sister and grew up, had a little puppy. I went to a Catholic school when I was 5 and 6, until my dad built a house on Long Island, in Malvern, Long Island. And I went to Valley Stream North High School, and then I attended the Highland School Preparatory in Jamaica Estates, which was predominantly Jewish, and being Italian, well, it kind of went together. We all had a good time. There was only 3 Italian boys. We were branded mafia children because who could afford $10,000 a year to go to high school? But it was a good move, thanks to my father, who wanted me to get a really good education. There were only 100 kids in the whole school out of 3 grades, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. 100 kids, that's very small. So some of my classes, I would have only maybe 5 or 6 kids in a class. Sometimes it was 2, my French class. But that's my early childhood. And after I graduated from high school, I was lucky to get a scholarship to Stanford University. And one day I was up in the Catskills, and my dad was walking with me. I had a band playing for kids during when the parents, they were staying at the Kutcher's Country Club, which had something to do with Ashton Kutcher. I think it might be his grandfather. We would play for the kids when the parents were dining, and we would entertain them. So my dad comes up to visit, and as we're walking down, I go, "Dad, do you realize I got a scholarship to an Ivy League school? It's like Harvard." I go, "Scholarship? You don't have to pay anything." He goes, "Well, I'd really like you to stay in New York. California's far. It's 3,000 miles away." He goes, "I'll tell you what, if you stick around in New York, you go to any college in New York, I'll buy you any car you want." Well, you don't say that to a 17-year-old kid just getting ready to graduate high school. I go, "Any car? British Racing Green Jaguar convertible with wire wheels and a wooden steering wheel?" "Yeah, sure." So my father, in a way, changed my life, because had I gone the other way to California to go to Stanford, I would have ended up in law school and I would have been an entertainment lawyer. That's what I wanted to be. But since I stuck around New York, my good friend Rick Shutter, drummer, who was in my early band at 14 years old, called the Young Executives, calls me up and said, "Somebody's coming over the house. You wrote a play. Bring your guitar over." I go, "I'm not interested. I'm going to end up going to NYU Law School." "Just bring your guitar over." So I go over there. I walk in, there's a guy named Steven sitting in a chair, getting ready to, I didn't know who he was. He's getting ready to go over to the piano, Ricky's piano, and all of a sudden he plays 15 songs. That's pretty good. I go, "What do you call that?" He goes, "Godspell." I go, "You mean like gospel?" "Godspell." I go, "That's pretty good, but that's guitar music. That's not piano music." So I have instant recall. I was blessed with that. So I could play back some of what he played. He goes, "Man, I want you in the show." I told my dad about it, and he goes, "Those shows close in 2 weeks." Godspell not only got a Grammy for the original cast album, became a motion picture with Columbia Pictures, but it ran not for 2 weeks, it ran for 12 years on Broadway, and I did close to 800 shows. That's 8 shows a week, every week for close to a year and a half, about 18 months. So I was fortunate, in a way, to be part of that original cast. I'm the lead guitarist and singer on the Willows, which is all over the world. But that's really not where I was originally wanted to go. And so my life shifted from becoming an entertainment lawyer to becoming an entertainer. And that's the beginning of that story. So yeah, it's a big jump from 5 years old, my little beagle, walking down the block to Catholic school, then walking out of the Cherry Lane Theater in Greenwich Village, and then the bigger theater uptown in Godspell. I mean, that's night and day. So after that, I walked around town looking for a manager. Somebody, the president of MGM, he was the head of the publishing company, said to me, listen, you already played guitar on the original cast album, you already played on the Columbia Pictures soundtrack, there's nothing more for you here, you need a manager. So I went around town. I'll never forget walking around town with my guitar, my Martin guitar, and knocking on doors until I finally connected with somebody. And they brought me to Fabergé, who launched their new record label called Brute Records. And I was the first artist. Michael Franks was the second. And a comedian, what's his name? Famous comedian, who I toured with. I opened the show with him. I'm trying to remember. When you get old, your memory starts to go a little bit. But I'll get back to that one. And I've recorded 3 singles for Brute Records, and they were good. And the people backing me was Aretha Franklin's band, with Bernard Purdy, he was known as Pretty Purdy, Cornell Dupree, Chuck Rainey on bass. This is Aretha Franklin's band on all her hit records, on a lot of other hits too. And the reality is, the best compliment I ever got as a musician is when Pretty Purdy, the drummer, said to me, you know, for a white boy, you got perfect time. And I take that compliment, knowing who that is on Rocksteady and all those big cities, on the Cadillac and all those Aretha songs, that he gave me that compliment that I had perfect time. I mean, that was 50 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Let's see, well, who was that guy? Was Michael Franks? I'm trying to think of the comedian's name. Anyway, I have 101 stories I could tell of what happened after Fabergé and doing the 3 masters. They gave me money when I signed the contract, and all of a sudden I got myself my own penthouse on East 51st Street, 300 East 51st Street. And my best friend Mark and I hung out at the beach. He got married. He was from Long Island, from Long Beach, and all of a sudden I'm in Manhattan. I had money in the bank, and I'd go any restaurant I wanted to go, take anybody out. I bought a dog, and I bought a Siberian Husky, and the day my dad came to visit, we're inside the dog store, and the woman goes, well, this is a championship, from a championship bloodline. The sire and dame for this dog are champions, so you could breed this dog. So I'm looking at this gorgeous dog, puppy with blue eyes and eyeliner. I love Siberian Huskies. Do you know that Siberian Huskies are the only dogs that have a certain enzyme in their mouth that they don't have bad breath? I'm sure most people don't know that. So if you're an Eskimo in an igloo with 12 Huskies, if they didn't have that, you would die of asphyxiation for sure. So they're the only dogs. So on the way home, I'm walking the dog, and my father goes, how much you pay for that dog? $600. $600! I guess that was a lot back then in 1973. I go, look, it's my money, it's my apartment, it's my dog. Because when I had my first little dog, I only had him for about a month. I came home one day from St. Bridget's Catholic School in what's it, Ridgewood, Brooklyn. I came home, I go, where's Tiny? And my mother goes, I gave him to Uncle John. Well, he's got 20 acres, he could run around all over it. I go, you gave my dog away? I don't like you very much. That's it. Our relationship, I was 6 years old, like, that's it. So when I bought the dog myself, years later, and I'm walking home, all my father kept saying, $600, wait till I tell your mother. I go, tell her what you want. It's my money, my place, my dog, and I'm gonna keep it. And I kept that dog for 15 years. And I loved that dog. His name was Zeus. And when I walked through Central Park, New York, on the weekends, different girls would come over. I used to look at them, I go, I don't know, is it you or me? It's probably you. They all want to pet you. Like, he goes, well, maybe it's you too. Oh, oh, oh. Anyway, so life in New York was great. And so I took my first trip with my friend Mark to Beverly Hills. And that was a lot of fun back in '73. And I went and I ride horses when I can. And I had a custom pair of riding boots made. They were $800. I didn't care. Unfortunately, on the way back, Mark and I were in a 747 up the spiral staircase, and up there used to be a bar and a piano, and who's up there? Stevie Wonder. We walk in there, and I introduce myself, we're hanging out with Stevie Wonder, and I go, oh my God, I forgot my boots. And my friend Mark says, oh, you got plenty of money, you get another pair. No, those were custom-made boots, man. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Hi, is this Jesse Cutler? I go, yeah. Oh, this is Jolie. I have your boots. You have my boots? Where are you? Oh, on 63rd and 3rd Avenue. 61st and 3rd Avenue. In Penthouse B. Penthouse B. I'll be right over. So I could call Fabergé up and get a limousine driver, Danny, to pick me up. I go over there. I go upstairs. The door opens up, and this girl's holding my boots like this. Gorgeous mulatto chick. And she doesn't really tell me who she is. And I go, listen, I have a limo downstairs. Let me take you to lunch. So where do I take her? I took her to Joe Namath's place, Bachelor's 3, because he was under contract to Fabergé. I wanted to show up a little bit. Because when I walked in, he went, hey, Jesse, how you doing? Because I met him up at the offices at Fabergé. And I thought she'd be impressed, but I still didn't know who she was. I realized that was no big deal until she says, can we go to Bloomingdale's after we have lunch? I go, sure. We go to Bloomingdale's, and a black cashier in Bloomingdale's in the lingerie department sees her and says, oh my God, it's you. I just saw you on the cover of Jet and Ebony magazine. And I'm wondering, who is this chick? I still don't know who she is. I go, let's go to my place. I have my own penthouse. Really? I go, so we get to my place, and she stayed with me, and a couple of days later I get a phone call like this. Hi, is Jolie there? I go, who's this? He goes, this is Q. I go, who, Q-Tip? And he laughed. I go, those were landlines then, so it's scratchy. I go, it's very scratchy. Where are you? He goes, I'm in Japan. I go, what are you doing in Japan? I don't know who it is. Oh, I'm on tour. And all of a sudden, if you saw my face, I went like this to Jolie. I went, are you Quincy Jones' daughter? She goes, oh, Daddy. She takes the phone out of my hand. And I went into the bathroom. I wet my afro then, picked it all out. I come out, lit a cigarette, and I'm like, oh. So you're Quincy Jones' daughter, the suave, you know. She ended up staying with me the whole summer, and she kept saying, I'm going to go back to LA, and you should come, and you belong in Beverly Hills, not New York. And that was a big deal, looking back in time. Had I stayed in New York, Fabergé with Brute Records would have pushed me all over the place as far as my career. but I guess I was impressed and I was seduced to go to Beverly Hills with Quincy Jones' daughter. And to make sure I came out, she took my Siberian Husky with her as collateral. And there I was with Mark, Jolie Jones, and me, and my dog Zeus in the cage, in the limo, looking at me going, what the fuck? Where are we going? You know, she walked him on, she took him onto the plane, and I stayed in New York for a couple more months, and at the end of the summer, I packed up, and I ended up being picked up at the airport in a white Bentley, and she was making cocktails in the back. And interestingly enough, she took me to a private club on the way from the airport before we got to the house. And as I walked up the stairs, who did I meet? I met the guy who was the star of the Cowboy. He was one of the TV stars who looked at me and he goes, you look like an interesting character, let me buy you a drink. And I'm trying to remember his name, but I go, my mother's in love with you. Every time you're on TV, I go, that's my man. Like, he said, for real? I go, yeah, you and a couple other guys. But anyway, so we finished there and we end up back in the limo, back in the Bentley, and we go up all the way up to Benedict Canyon, and we go down, and all of a sudden we get to these gates, the gates open up, go into the driveway, like a few acres, and a beautiful house. We walked in there, and the next morning I woke up, and there were two little girls running around named Rashida and Kadida Jones, who today, you may know, Rashida starred in The Office, and she's in a lot of commercials now. She's a beautiful girl. Her mother was Peggy Lipton, which I never knew that Peggy Lipton from the Mod Squad was part of the Lipton family, from the T family. I didn't know. I could figure out why that happened. Quincy. It turns out, like in my life, when you get a little fame, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Women are attracted to your talent because it's unique and it's been addressed and promoted. And they have tons of millions of dollars. They don't care, So I met Dean. I was introduced to Dean Martin's daughter at a party for the guy that created Botox from Switzerland. And my friend came over. He goes, "I'm going to change your life." And he walks this girl over. I don't know who she is. She goes, "This is Dina. Hi." And later that night, I get a phone call. "Hi. Oh, this is Dina Martin." I go, "Well, that's a great name. That sounds like Dean Martin." She goes, "Well, Dean Martin's my father." I almost dropped the phone. I go, "You're the girl I met at the party on Sunset Boulevard?" She goes, "Yeah. Listen, I'd love to take you out to dinner with me. I'm having dinner with Michael Caine and Steve, the comedian Steve
Martin.
Steve Martin." I never thought of it. Dina Martin, Steve Martin. Could there be a relation? Well, who knows? I doubt it. But and there I was. I said, "Let me check my calendar." It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I went and picked her up, went up to Bel Air, this restaurant, and there I am sitting next to Steve Martin and looking at Dina and looking at Michael Caine and his wife Shakira at the time, and like I'm back to normal. I felt back to normal, but Dean Martin's daughter knew everybody. I mean, you couldn't get bigger than Dean Martin. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Joey Bishop, the Rat Pack. I mean, you couldn't get bigger than that. You could get as big, but not bigger. There isn't any bigger at the time. Anyway, there was really, Michael Jackson was starting to pop. I remember one day, since I'm telling stories, when I signed with Fabergé, I had a new magazine, Cashbox and Record World, and And these magazines are the top magazines in the music industry. And I remember opening up Cashbox, and there's my picture on the top with Richard Barry, the vice president and the owner's son, who is in charge of Brute Records, a picture of me and him. And right below me is a picture of Prince signing his first contract with Warner Brothers. He was 18 and I was 21. And of all the people I met, and I met pretty much everybody, I was more R&B. I always leaned to the R&B music. So when I met Marvin Gaye and Barry White, I was thrilled, and Smokey Robinson, Berry Gordy, that was a big thrill. I never met Prince. I met Michael Jackson, and so years later I'm sitting in Quincy Jones' living room, and I see a guy sitting in one of the chairs with a bandana on, he's bald, with a bandana on his head, and I walk over, I go, Tupac Shakur. I go, it's you. He goes, I think it's me. He goes, man, that is the greatest name. Tupac Shakur. He stood up. He was kind of short. He was about this big. And we did this kind of thing. And he was engaged to Kadida Jones, to Quincy's daughter. And that's how she popped up on the news reels. She wasn't really an actress, but like Rashida. But Jolie Jones married the producer of Simply Red. Da, 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 da. They were good. They were from Ireland, I think. Simply Red. But she married him. I didn't marry her. So all these interesting women came around me. Very interesting. Susan Sears from Sears and Roebuck. She picked up her baby blue Bentley, Rolls Royce actually. They came around, and I was young. You know, I didn't think about marriage really, honestly, until I was more 30-ish. And anybody who's watching this, I highly recommend that you do get a good education. And in today's world, you should get your master's degree and even go, if you can, to a PhD. That's a great accomplishment. Anybody anywhere would give you respect. And not to get married until, for women, like 28 plus, and men should be 30 plus. Just saying, from experience, you'd be much happier and more grounded at that point. So I went on after that, and living in LA, I said goodbye to Fabergé. I'm living in LA. I'm doing concerts. I started out at the Whiskey A Go-Go. I opened for Blondie, Deborah Harry, and I was there 3 nights. And who comes backstage? My manager brings this redhead, very pretty, backstage, and she comes over. She says, "I think you're great." I was up there for 2 hours, and I blew that audience away. I had a great band, and my band was great. Not only was my band great, but stars out of the audience. Lou, the horn player for Chicago, came on stage, played with us. Claudia Lanier, who sang with the Rolling Stones, came on stage, and the place was rocking. So now I'm backstage, and this little redhead with blue eyes is looking at me, telling me, "I think you're fantastic." Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Anyway, we're backstage, and they have like a bar back there, and everybody's doing things. All the groupies come in. Well, anyway, I get home. It's about 3:30 in the morning, and I get another phone call, and it's, "Hello, listen, this is me. I'm the girl that told you were great, the redhead. You want to come over to my house?" I go, "Where are you?" "I'm in Hancock Park." That's in LA. It's a nice area in LA. "Okay, what's your address?" So I went over there, and this is real. Pamela Corson was her name. I didn't know who she was at the time. So I knock on the door, she opens up. I'm all dressed, because that was from the night I was there. I was wearing a real nice outfit. I think they had put makeup on me, whatever, and this is the first night we were at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And all I kept thinking about going to her house is I can't wait to see the reviews in Hollywood Reporter and Variety, like the reviews. So I'm sitting there on the couch next to her, and all of a sudden I hear, and she says, "Oh no, it's Ronnie." It's 4 o'clock in the morning. The door comes open, and a guy walks in with a gun, and he's holding it, and he goes, "What you doing, my bitch?" And he hit me like this, and goes like this, click, with a .38 caliber. So I'm looking at bullets. Remember, all I kept thinking about is my reviews. I got to stay alive. And then he put the gun down. I mean, it was just a little something there, but he dragged her away. And the first thing I did was, I figured out how to open the gun. I dumped all the bullets out in the cushion and put the gun back. Well, you can't kill me now. I'm going to fight my way out. When you're from Brooklyn, you're tough. You're just tough. Anyway, he comes out. He came in like a lion, and he left like a lamb, going like this. "Man, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do nothing. I mean, I didn't know you with the Q." With the Q, I had to think about that. And then I'm just going to take my little gun and go. And he left. The next thing you know, this girl, I still don't know who she is. This girl comes crawling out. She says, "And if you weren't here, you saved my life. I should take you to France and hold a press conference in Paris and tell the world you're going to be the biggest rock star." I'm looking at it. She goes, "I have millions of dollars." I go, "Well, that's good." I go, "Who are you?" She's, "I'm Jim Morrison's widow." "From the Doors?" "Yeah." That was kind of freaky. That's really happened. And since I was there and that happened, I said, "Listen, I have the pink caddy outside." I had this really cool Cadillac, white top, pink body. It was a sedan DeVille, but it was like an older car, but in good shape. And I said, "Why don't you follow me with your car to my house?" So we get to my house in Laurel Canyon. I said, "Park in the driveway." We get up, I knock on the door, and Angel, my drummer, Stephen Angel, opens the door, and I go, "Shh, don't say anything. Jim Morrison's widow's behind me. Don't say nothing." Okay. We go in. It's 4:30 in the morning now, and she stayed with me for a couple of days. But in my mind, so the next day, we went to the newsstand to get a copy of my report from Variety, and I got a very good review. I was very thrilled about that. With Jim Morrison's wife, who's pushing me to take me to Paris to hold a press conference. She says, "I can hold a press conference. Everybody will know. And I'll say, this is the next big star." That could have happened. I could have married Dean Martin's daughter. That could have happened. I could have stayed with Fabergé. That would have happened. So a lot of lucky good things happened to me, and a lot of things I turned down because I wanted to do it on my own. And so after Quincy's daughter and I split up, I got my own apartment, I got my dog back, and I put a new band together, and I played all over town, up and down the West Coast. And I then actually returned to New York and stayed there for about 6 months, went down to Florida to visit my parents, and every day I would go along the boardwalk in Hollywood Beach and play the piano. So I wrote a whole bunch of new songs. And when I went back to LA, I had my bag full of new songs. And on Valentine's Day, which is coming up in 2024 now, shortly, I had my briefcase, 2 pieces of luggage, and my 2 guitars pulling up to my friend Stanley B. Herman, the actor's condominium. And a girl and 2 guys are walking along, and she says, "Do you need any help?" I go, "Yeah, well, that'd be really nice." We end up in the elevator with all my bags and guitars. We get upstairs, and this girl named Randy Pitch, who I should have married. We connected, we stayed together, we got our own apartment, we got our own place, and she was the luckiest person for me that I ever met, and I'm still in touch with her, and it's 45 years later. The reality is, I ended up getting signed to United Artists Records, being produced by Academy Award winner Joe Renzetti, and there I am in the studio with the best triple scale musicians, and my dream, because I always loved R&B music. I loved the Stylistics, the Delphonics, Jerry Butler, Marvin Gaye, because with the R&B music, it had great beats, but it had sweeping strings and horns. And that's what I liked. I don't like Gothic music. I don't like, see, that makes no sense to me. Some of the bands are great, and the guitar playing is great, but that screaming, my friend who owns the Studio Live USA, was a very good engineer, genius actually. When I call him, I go, "Who's there today?" He goes, "I have the angry people." I knew right away what he meant, because I could hear in the background, "Oh, no, I don't get it, you know. And I figured out this. You could tell a lot about a person by the kind of music that they select, that they want to take into their brain. You could tell a lot about a personality. Not with that, I'm into astrology and I'm into numerology. If you know about all this, you could figure people out in 2 seconds by simply asking, what is the number of the day you were born, from 1 to 31? All those numbers mean something, because in numerology, it's 1 to 9, no zeros. That's it. However, there's the next level, and here's a cute story. So I'm sitting in Quincy's house, and who's sitting next to me? Michael Jackson. And Quincy, which is known as Q, is sitting right over there. And I go, "Michael, you bleaching?" And Quincy goes like this, "Did I really ask Michael Jackson that?" I go, "Q, I was born August 28. Michael, tell Quincy when you were born." He was born August 29, the day after me. But the difference is, 28 is a 10, 2 plus 8 is 10, take away the zeros, I'm 1. I'm the hermit, I'm the loner. Michael was 29, that's 11. That's the master number of the universe. But I was right next, I'm always next to the greatness. And I call it the Cutler Edge. So if you ever want to check me out, go to thecutleredge.com. It'll go to jessecutler.com. Anyway, Michael was very humble and low-key and fantastic. And in my life, I was blessed to meet some of the greatest entertainment people ever. Gene Kelly, Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson. When I met Marvin Gaye, I was like a girl. I was thrilled. I was in the R&B room at the auditorium in LA during the Grammys, and Berry Gordy's mistress said, "Who do you want to meet in the R&B room?" I go, "Anybody?" She goes, "Yeah, who?" I go, "Marvin Gaye." She goes, "Come on over." So we walk in there, and I see Smokey Robinson and Lionel Richie, and I see Diana Ross. They're all sitting there having cocktails, and there I am, looking at Marvin Gaye, who was quite tall, actually. And I go, Marvin,